Welcome back on deynonmod. Today I want to propose you a video about the unboxing review about the White Dwarf issue 513 of May 2025, released by the Games Workshop. Here we can find the main thing about this White Dwarf from the cover side that is related about Khorne, because you as it is the new codex of the World Eaters for Warhammer 40k, and soon there will be the new release of the Battletome of Khorne for Age of Sigmar. So this it's really quite thematic as White Dwarf, and I quite appreciate. So we can start to see that this one has this cover that it's really amazing, that it's about Angron. And we can find also the inserts here, so we can find these that are related about Kittin, that are the cards that you can add to play with. And then we have, as usual, the mission one for Warhammer 40k and one for Age of Sigmar. For Age of Sigmar, as usual, it's one that comes from old ones, so 2021. As usual, I suggest you to think about having also other that you have of battle plans renewed, because the new edition, because it's always something that it's really quite interesting. And here we can find the alternative cover of the White Dwarf, that it's the same that we are seeing here, simply without any writing. Here we had this cover, alternative one, making the subscription to the White Dwarf, and I suggest you, because you can have eventually the alternative cover, you can save quite a lot of money, so it's a really quite interesting option, and eventually you could think about. So now it's time to start to see about the contents, because it's really quite interesting. Here we had the introduction about the White Dwarf, here the contents inside the White Dwarf. Here we have the main list of the readers to the team of the White Dwarf. Usually I suggest you to see more than read, because there are quite a lot of ideas about conversion, painting, characterization, so it's really quite interesting. Sometimes there are also articles that are really quite amusing, because for example here we have this that it's about some design for suitors that come from old ideas of the White Dwarfs, and Sicily never had known. So it's really quite inspirational about this. Okay, so here we can find always something that you can look for, and I think that it's really quite amazing. So I suggest to give a sight about, because anyway there are some things that would be nice. And I've had this that it's the second part of an article related about how to create your narrative characters. Here we have seen the previous part in the May 2025 White Dwarf, but here we had the continuation, and since I appreciate, because it's a way to make you understand more how you can personalize your army, how you can create the theme for it, maybe your main characters. So it's really quite nice. I think that it's really quite intriguing to have something like this. And I have about the basing. I love such type of articles, because here you can gain an idea that can make you have, for example, the scraping materials that you have, something that remain, and you can reuse to characterize, to theme your army, maybe only your characters or in general. I think that it's really quite nice, because the bases are part and the important part of your miniature, of your army. So I think that it's really quite nice, and see such type of example. I think that it's really quite inspirational. So it's something that you can copy, or you can simply have, I'd like something like this, but not this, so I can use as a referral. I think that it's really quite amusing, and I suggest you to watch about it. Then we move about Age of Sigmar with an article related about the rivalry of Khorne and Slaanesh. Technically, should be more about Khorne and Sinch, the really bigger rivalry, but anyway it's really quite interesting, because it gave you more ideas, more depth of background about these two gods and their armies. So I think that it's really quite amazing. Moreover, I love the artworks that are related, because they are really fantastic. So there is quite a lot, and it's a way also to know more about both of the gods. I think that it's really quite intriguing. And then we move about Khorgos Khul. It's not something new, because we've seen in the first edition of the Age of Sigmar with the setbox the introduction about this model, that it was Khorgos Khul, and it was having a really great background over with this rivalry with Valdus, and it's really quite interesting, because it's developed And about this, I think that it's simply amazing one, because it's really something that give you even more background about, and we have also the path to glory path. So start from Khul, from being a bloodhound technically, to be developed. And we've seen about these two schedules that are the part about first to Ascension and after the Ascension, in the part that it's the book Dawnbringer, book 6, Hound of Chaos. In here we have the last match of Valdus against the Khorgos school, that I find it really quite nice. And eventually, remember that I made also a model, much more than seen about this, that it was about Valdus against Khorgos school here. And okay, it's in the description if you want the link about this miniature, because I prepared and I was really having quite nice, because I wanted to have this, that technically it's not Valdus and this technically not Khorgos school, but are those models. And I wanted to them personalize, so I decided to make such model that I quite love. And so we have also quite interesting, because here we have the image about Khorgos school that it's ascending. And it's something completely new. I never seen such artwork, so it's really quite interesting. I'm quite curious to see if in the future the Games Workshop will release eventually a miniature about him. I think that it will be really quite interesting. So, okay, not bad. And then we have also the way to create with the battle plan, so it's quite nice to play with. And then we have the battle report that it's about, in this case we can see Khorne against Slaanesh. So it's really quite interesting, because it's a way to understand better eventually how to create the armies with the Age of Sigmar. So for the ones that want to play with it, it can be interesting, and for the ones that never played, it could be a way to know much better about this, so that you can have quite a lot of interesting parts. And about this, I think that it's also quite interesting to see about these images, because could be quite nice eventually to create some dioramas or some dueling and so on. But also about the part of the Shenics, because they are quite interesting Shenics, because they are columns like this that usually are ones that could be decorating for the cake design and so on, that are ruined like this. Or you can think that you can really create with different things, completely thematic and so on. I think that it's quite nice, because you can gain quite a lot of ideas using really simple things, but having a completely new battlefield. So it's quite nice, really. And it's up to you to decide if you could be interested about, but it has quite a lot of potential as type of articles, so that you can test about the background, battle report itself, or about the Shenic future, the images, the models. Could be really quite intriguing in my opinion, so nice. Then we have about Underworld, again about the Khorne and Slaanesh. Since I don't play Underworld, so I can't say if it's really quite interesting as an article, but still the images are amazing as the bands related. So here you can find a lot of things that could be quite interesting for the ones that play with this. And then we move about Warhammer 40k. Here you have the Grey Knights. Remember that there has been announced that quite soon there will be the list about them. And being against the demons generally, it's obvious that it's against Khorne on the demonic part. And it's a way also to understand much better about such type of developing of the background, so not bad. I quite like such type of things described like this, data script, manuscript and so on. I think that it's really quite intriguing. They give you quite a lot of background, so I think that it's something worth. I like such type of images. And you can gain quite a lot of ideas about, so not bad at all. We have also the article about the chain 1, so it's not bad because it's the chain base and so on. It's almost the same that we're seeing for the Space Marines. So seeing how they are developing the design, the idea, the background, I think that it's quite amazing, because we can see how much it's widespread about the usage of such weaponry, so not bad at all. Then about the combat pattern for Warhammer 40k for Khorne, so a bit of background and the part about the combat pattern itself. So here you could use eventually, it's quite interesting. I don't play combat pattern, I'm not interested at all, but it's something that develop continuously, so we'll see in the future how it's going to be brought on. And then we had the aspect of war. Remember that are facultative rules, these ones, so not worry too much. But we've seen that Ju is trying to develop quite a lot this part, so I think that in the future will be part essential of the basic rules eventually. So we see, because anyway are something that you can try without any problems. Eventually you can decide. Then we can see about this that it's about runes, spreading and so on for Warhammer 40k. But you can see also this as a way to understand better about movement or so on that you can try to apply also to other games. So eventually it could be interesting. Obviously they are mainly related about Warhammer 40k, so you have to pay that attention. And then we have army gallery that are related about Khorne's armies. And I think that it's always quite interesting, because here you can find a lot of ideas about how you can paint, how you can modify, how you can base, how you can create a lot of different things. And I think that's really quite intriguing and interesting to see how much potential eventually this army, that it's not only simply about the ride. And it's really quite nice, in my opinion. It's always quite intriguing. And then we move about Khorne again, but Horus Heresy 1. And we can find how much it's changed about the parts. So the main part about Assault and Glor, it's always the same. But the chorus and so on, it's quite different. And it's an army that it's really quite interesting. So it's always nice to see how much it is, and eventually you can develop two type of armies. So one for the Warhammer 40k and one for the Horus Heresy 30k. Then we have the second part about the Tears of Albarak, that is about the Tars. And as usual, I always suggest you to read about this, because technically are complete books that you can eventually buy from the Black Library successfully. And here you can make them before. You can know maybe something related about army that you never known about, an author that you know that is writing something new, or that you never known, and you can see what he can write about if you like its way. You can improve your English eventually, or you can simply have maybe some type of environment that you never tried. For example, you always prefer the Warhammer 40k, and you can use this as an excuse to read more about Age of Sigmar. So it's always quite interesting. I quite like such type of articles, and I was really sad when they were missing for some of the White Dwarf. So I'm really quite glad that that has come back, because it's really quite nice. In my opinion, it's always something to appreciate. Then we move about the bunker. Okay, so the way to, I can say, incentivate you to play, collect, and paint. Here we have the Kid Team Dig that you could be interested about. Sincerely, here I see only about the images, the painting, the dioramas, not about the rules, because I'm not interested about. But there can be anyway quite a lot of things that you could take ideas about. And then we can find this, that we have the cards. Remember that we have seen are these ones, so they are included, that you can use to play with. And then we have this satellite uplink. So a crab that is about Warhammer 40k that show the models about its members. And I think it's a second way, and it's going to substitute the part about the mailing list. And it's really quite interesting, because you can have quite a lot of ideas about basing, about painting, about a lot of different options that could be really quite nice. So not bad at all. I think that it's always quite intriguing to gain something that you can take inspiration about. So always quite nice. Here we have about the Warhammer Studio part, for example. It's quite nice. And what we see maybe in the future with us, so not bad at all. Then we have these that are the part of the inserts, and then the back that goes to close with this part of the Khorne armies for Warhammer 40k. They were details, so not bad at all. So to say about such White Dwarf, sincerely I appreciate it, even if it's monothematic, because it's almost completely related about Khorne. But for both the background and the rules, it's quite full. Also about Minotaurs, we have seen a lot of them, so it's really quite inspirational about. We see about Warhammer 40k, the combat battle, kill team, the aspect of war, the Horus heresy part. So there's been quite a lot of things. And also about Age of Sigmar. A lot of background, for example, think about the rivalry of Khorne and Slaanesh. Think about the part of Underwood. The battle report itself, that I think that it's quite interesting. Okay, I'm sad because I prefer literally Age of Sigmar compared to Warhammer 40k. But you can have quite a lot of things. The path to glory of the evolution of Khorne Khul. So it's really quite nice because they give you quite a lot of information that could make you more interested about or collecting Khorne, or eventually know better about him as an opponent. Because it can be quite nice. Think about the part of the Grey Knights talking about the Khorne party. So a third part that talk about what they can be perceived. It's really quite nice and give you a lot of different perspective and a different knowledge about Khorne itself. I quite appreciate sincerely, so I think that it's not bad. But I'm curious to know about your opinion. Do you appreciate such type of Dwarf, or you prefer something more mixed, or do you like something else? Would you prefer some other themed? Because technically, okay, it's being released the new codex, as we've seen for Nargod. There's been one almost dedicated to it. This has been about Khorne. We see soon one about the Identity King, because it's going to be released quite soon, their Battletome. But really, I quite appreciate such thematic ones, because they give you more depth and more knowledge about an army, eventually a god, that I think it's not bad at all. Anyway, from deynonmod it's everything. I invite you to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell so to receive notification about new video, to comment under here about this video, or if you want to suggest me new videos. So, I hope to see you again to the next time.